Oh boy. Alright, well hello and welcome to another episode of B-Movie Enema the series. I'm Jeff Arbuckle. With me as always is my trusty partner, Nurse Disembody. Nurse, how's it going?
Doing great, Jeff. How's it going with you?
You know, not too bad at all. Can you believe that we're at the end of yet another full season of the show?
No, I really can't. Where does the time go?
Time is like a predator. It's stalking you. Oh, you can try and outrun it with doctors, medicines, new technologies, but in the end, time is going to hunt you down and make the kill.
Okay.
Anyway, this has been a peculiar year, huh? I mean, we've faced women in prison, zombies, snakes.
Correction! Satan snakes.
Satan snakes, an incubus, an alien private eye, another alien, a Drainiac, a demon, a Puma man, our fears, moonshiners, international intrigue, a Satan lady, bee-girls, a promiscuous duck, and Vincent Price.
It's been a busy year.
It sure has been. So we wrap things up with
What?
I feel like I should have the movie over here. Do you have it?
No, I don't. It's probably over there somewhere.
Huh, well, that's odd.
I believe you're looking for this, Jeffrey.
God, Dick, what are you doing here?
You told me to bring a movie the last time we spoke.
Ah, shit, I did, didn't I?
Yes. Yes, you did, Jeffrey.
Alright, so what you got there?
Well, back in film school, I do believe you told me that Stanley Kubrick was your favorite director. Is that still the case?
Well, I mean, he is no Brett Piper, but, yeah, he's still my favorite director.
Excellent. Well, then here is a film we can watch this week. The master's first film, 1953's Fear and Desire.
Well, how about that?
How about that indeed?
So, Fear and Desire is the first film by then Look magazine photographer Stanley Kubrick. This movie got a decent amount of praise from critics at the time. Famed writer and critic James Agee praised the film heavily. Film professor Mark Van Doren wrote to Kubrick and told him how iconic the movie would be, and one scene in particular, featuring a girl bound to a tree that we will see later, is what Van Doren specifically was talking about. Now, he felt that Stanley Kubrick would be a name people would seek out to find high talent and watch great movies. However, well, the film was a flop.
Yes. While still being very well received, people who know a thing or two about film, the movie did fail. What is more is that the entire distribution of the film would become a problem. The film was distributed by Joseph Burstyn. Burstyn died shortly after the film was released.
Yeah, and this led to the disappearance of the film for many years. Burstyn's company went out of business. Kubrick obtained the original negative and supposedly destroyed it. He wanted to do the same for every single print of the film once it left distribution, but he apparently didn't get them all.
No, some did survive in private collections.
Yeah, that's right. It would largely remain unseen and unknown for 40 years. Finally, at 1993's Telluride Film Festival, the film got a retrospective screening. One more year later, the nonprofit art revival theater in Manhattan, known as the Film Forum, planned to screen this with his second film, Killer's Kiss. The good news was that Fear and Desire, obviously without distribution considering every print was nearly destroyed, was in the public domain.
That did not stop Kubrick from attempting to prevent anyone from watching the movie, however.
That's correct. Using his friends over at Warner Brothers, who distributed his film since 1971's A Clockwork Orange, he sent a letter attempting to disown the film and downplay as much interest as he could. However, despite there being a pretty messed up bootleg version floating around there for decades, and the only decent print that was still with the Kubrick estate, it seemed as though this movie would never really get wide distribution.
Until a Puerto Rican film lab discovered another negative in 2010.
Yeah, and remastering that negative led to the film being shown on Turner Classic Movies in December of 2011, and Kino Video releasing this beautiful remaster on DVD and Blu-ray 1 year later.
I actually have quite a surprise for you, Jeffrey.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, indeed. Not only do I have Kubrick's first feature film, I also brought along his first two short films. From 1951, I believe, Day of the Fight and Flying Padre.
Well, hot damn. I mean, we have ourselves a triple feature of Stanley Kubrick. Nurse, what do you think of that?
What's that? Something about Stanley Kubrick? Cool. Sure. Let's do this.
Sweet. Well, all right. Folks, we're going to do something slightly different for this episode. Normally, we have 4 segments and break into the movie 2 times and then wrap things up after the movie. However, considering we're playing a little more than 20 minutes of shorts before a movie that is already less than an hour long anyway, we're only going to have 3 segments. Now, we'll come back later on in the movie and discuss Stanley Kubrick in detail, but we'll stick with the shorts and the movie a little longer before we cut in. So we'll see you back here in a bit, but stay tuned for Stanley Kubrick's first 3 films, the shorts Day of the Fight and Flying Padre, and the once lost Fear and Desire.
This is the story of a fight and of a fighter, Walter Cartier. Today is the fight. Tonight at 10 o'clock will be one of the moments which justify his difficult life. At 6 o'clock on the morning of the fight begins the toughest part of being a boxer, the waiting. Walter is on the right of Vincent, his identical twin. He doesn't mind the hard training, the 4 miles of road work every day, as much as the waiting. Walter knows that each bout is more important than the one before because he's rapidly climbing to the middleweight championship of the world, and he must keep winning. It's a long way until night. Walter, wearing the bow tie, is 24. He's a native of New York and a fighter as far back as he can remember. His father is away, and when he was a little boy, he lost his mother. Walter began to do exhibition boxing with his brother Vincent when they were 3 years old. During the war, they fought exhibitions in the Navy, where they were in the same outfit together. Now, through the quiet morning streets of New York, the 2 boys walked to morning mass. It's important for Walter to get Holy Communion in case something should go wrong tonight. At Walter's 3-room apartment where he lives with his aunt, Vince is serving him breakfast. He's a lawyer and Walter's manager. Vince lives in New Jersey, but in the slow hours before the fight, he's staying with his brother. Now they live as they used to years ago, the two boys and Walter's dog. At noon, Walter gets a complete examination from the commissioned doctor. If he's not in perfect condition, the doctor can call off the fight. But this doesn't trouble Walter. What bothers him is the whole day's waiting, of which this is a part. Sometimes he thinks of the men who don't pass, and he knows that he must. And he does. Meat is vital to Walter. It gives him the raw energy needed for fighting. Dan Stampler owns the restaurant where Walter comes to eat every day. He often sits proudly like this with the boy he thinks will be champion. This is Walter's second and final meal before the match. Walter has a knockout punch in either hand, and he's one of the hardest hitting middleweights in the ring. He moves around his opponent, jabbing, shifting, looking for an opening, and then finishing the fight with one exploding punch. He's won almost half of his 35 victories by these sudden KOs. And now at 4 o'clock, it'll be 6 hours until he enters the ring to try for his 36th. No one ever told Walter to be a fighter. His family was against it, but he just had the feeling for it. On this day, the people around him feel the pain and fear. But for Walter, the bad part is the waiting for the thing to happen. Soon it's coming. He'll be glad when it's finally here. His boxing gear has been carefully laid out for the ride to the arena and is ready to be packed. The time draws near and Walter prepares to go. Above everything else in the world, Walter Cartier wants to be champion. Unlike a lot of people, he's got something to move towards all the time, and that thing's the championship. Nothing is going to keep him back from it. He goes ahead, and he never stops. The fight Walter's riding to now in a friend's car may bring him nearer to the middleweight crown. When it's over, there'll be another coming along, and another one after that. Always it's fighting and training and fighting again, but always there's the goal. At 8 o'clock, in the small hot dressing room behind the arena, Walter moves into the last 2 hours of preparation. In these hours, he can feel his body tightening, but it's a tightness that does not come from lack of confidence. It's the pressure of the last waiting here in a place where the walls are so close, a man can barely move his body around. If only the fight would come. Then everything else will not be so bad. Not really bad at all. Bobby James is the man he's going to be fighting in 1 hour. Walter has never seen him before, but when the fight's over, they'll both know a lot about each other. Bobby has been in the ring with many of the top middleweights and has never been counted out. That's something to think about. At a time like this, it's almost as if the brothers were going into the ring together. Time is a strange thing. When you have a little of it and you want it to last, it scatters away in all directions and you never know where it's gone. 24 years are a long time, but in a way that's gone pretty quickly for a couple of boys. It's only when you want the hours to go, like now, that time has a way of staring you in the face as it barely moves along. But there isn't much of it left now before the main event goes on, and everything's here at last. As he gets ready to walk out to the arena and the 3,000 people who are there, Walter is slowly becoming another man. This is the man who cannot lose, who must not lose. The hard movements of his arms and fists are different from what they were an hour ago. They belong to a fierce new person. They're part of the arena man, the Walter Cartier that the crowd outside is going to see in 15 minutes. A few moments are left. He can almost hear the commissioner coming down the hall to call him. He's done it. He's KO'd Bobby James. This is a fighter, Walter Cartier. He's just moved up one more place in a line that may end with the championship. It's a hard life, but to him it's worth all the hardship and the risk. To him it's worth everything.
Harding County in northeastern New Mexico. It's here that our story begins. Over the plateaus and canyons near the village of Mosquero, the sound of an airplane can be heard. A single motor ship flying low. To many of the people here, this plane, the Spirit of St. Joseph, has a special significance. It's the plane that brings their priest, the Reverend Fred Stottmiller. This is the story of 2 days, he'd call them 2 ordinary days in his life. For 6 years, Father Stottmiller has been piloting his own plane. Today, he's on his way to Gallegos to conduct a funeral for a ranch hand. 2 men wait for him at the tiny field he uses for an airstrip there. Although his 11 mission churches are spread out over a 4,000 square mile area, the Padre can overcome the handicap of distance by flying from his main parish, St. Joseph's in Mosquero, to wherever his duties take him. Later, Father Stottmiller officiates at solemn services for the deceased. Friends from nearby ranches join the family as the simple wooden coffin is carried to the tiny graveyard alongside the mission church. To the main parish in Mosquero, Father Stottmiller returns in his plane in the late afternoon to conduct evening devotions. Most of his parishioners are Spanish Americans, the majority of them small farmers or ranchers, and he's been their priest now for 8 years. Next morning, as he's eating breakfast in the parish house, a young girl from the village comes to see the Padre. She brings a very special and difficult problem. The wise and friendly counsel of the priest is always available to his flock, and he listens attentively as the girl tells her story. Her playmate Pedro is a bully. He teases her, fights with her, is cruel to her. Won't Father talk to him? The Padre says that he will, at once, and his questioning soon discloses that the girl is right, that Pedro's conduct in the matter leaves something to be desired. An amicable settlement, even though Pedro soon drops the arm around the shoulder. At any event, peace seems momentarily restored. When his work and studies permit, Father Stottmiller turns to his chief hobby, his birds. He raises canaries, occasionally sells them to members of his parish. He's also a crack shot, likes to hunt deer and other game. Much of his spare time is spent keeping his plane in constant readiness. He borrowed $2,000 from a friend to buy it, and it served him and his neighbors well. He's grown accustomed to emergency messages like this: a sick baby, a telephone call, a mother's plea for help. The Padre talks to the young mother. Husband away on business, baby sick, getting worse. No doctor nearby. Please hurry, Father. She's at an isolated ranch 50 miles away. He can get there in less than an hour. While the mother comforts the ailing baby, the priest heads for the ranch. He'll have to land in a nearby field, but he's used to that. He flies 12,000 miles a year, has more than 1,200 hours in the log. Minutes after the phone call, the mother sees the Spirit of St. Joseph bank over her house. Ten minutes later, Father Stockmiller prepares to take off with his precious cargo. His destination is Tucumcari, where an ambulance is waiting at the airport to rush the child to a hospital. This is the end of the journey. The airport at Tucumcari. The ambulance is waiting. The hospital is only minutes away. There's no brass band here, no cheering crowds, no newspaper men clamoring for a headline. Just an ambulance driver, an anxious mother, sick baby, and their priest. At the hospital, the baby will be treated and nursed back to health. And that, really, is the only reward ever asked by the Spirit of St. Joseph's Flying Padre.
War in this forest, not a war that has been fought, or one that will be, but any war. And the enemies who struggle here do not exist unless we call them into being. This forest then, and all that happens now, is outside history. Only the unchanging shapes of fear and doubt and death are from our world. These soldiers that you see keep our language and our time, but have no other country but the mind.
Do you think they're looking for us?
It's one of ours, all right.
You can't see us. But maybe they saw a plane back there.
There isn't much left of it to see, unless it's still burning.
Even if they could spot us, there isn't anything that they could do to help us here.
Here. 6 miles behind the enemy lines.
Well, that's not too far.
Not too far. In those 6 miles, there are probably thousands of guys. And every one of them was taught to shoot at uniforms like this.
If you're so worried about that, why don't you keep your voice down?
I'm not worried.
What's going to happen, Lieutenant? If somebody around us saw a plane go down, they might be looking for us in the woods already.
I'd feel a lot easier if our arsenal was better stocked. It isn't very much. Too bad you fellas didn't get your rifles out of the plane. Let's see what can be done. Once you understand how a mousetrap works, if you're clever enough, you can use it as a springboard. Here are the front lines. From our position just before we crashed, we should be in this general area. Our own lines are here, and we should be about here. There's a river that runs east of where we are now, I think. And that river cuts right through the front lines and winds up on our side. Now, as I see it, we might be able to use our reconditioned mousetrap on the river.
Is that your idea? To go down the river?
Yes.
But how? How can we get down it? I can't swim very well. And Fletcher...
We could do it on a raft. At night. Well, we'll never make it any other way. It's suicide to try to walk out. I wouldn't have the vaguest idea of how and where to start. This way, we could just cruise through together in a few hours and arrive in one piece. Now, by my computations,
Your computations. It was your brilliant figuring that got us here in the first place.
It must be somebody's pet. It has a collar.
Nah, make a better watchdog.
Seems friendly enough.
But we can't use a mascot on this trip. Hurry up. We don't have all day. If no one has a better suggestion, let's head for the river. Some more animals might show up.
Fights the other.
Faster. The sun is fast.
Hill's ahead.
Get there before it burns in the bushes.
I could do it alone.
Corner to turn and
me with this bunch of cripples.
Nobody's safe here.
Are they watching me?
Blame who? I'll blame the
Keep
big...
them beat it on a string. Lost, I should look around.
Getting hungry.
What's up?
They're all scared.
How much is in back of us?
So angry at each other.
Time for night
I
soon.
won't look up later.
All the twigs cracking in my head.
We'll need pause for the night.
Crashed through myself.
The bird was wounded.
I don't run for no
Nail of
reason.
the sun. Wait!
What's going to hang from the trees tonight?
Hurry with them.
No dying in the woods.
No rabbits there, no.
Maybe I'm getting old.
Faster. Turn on the lights, please.
I'm sinking in the woods.
Don't die here.
Who's scared?
Dark will be
All
bad.
right. To the moon, please.
After we get past this road, the river isn't very much further. Mac, get down to the road and take a look. You know, there's nothing so refreshing as an afternoon out of doors in enemy territory. It's really too bad that the sun doesn't burn his screen instead of brown. Camouflage. Well, if you see some strange faces across the way, just wave to them casually and try to look as native as possible.
Lieutenant.
Huh?
Lieutenant. Come here. Bring your binoculars.
What do you want?
I'd like you to see something. Around the riverbed.
What?
I can't make out exactly what it is, but I think you'll be interested. Come on. Over there. See? Looks like some kind of small airstrip.
Yes, you're right. Lots of rank around. Looks like a general.
Sure. Sure. A general. He's a general.
Let's get back and help with the raft. Mac, let's go.
All we need now is Huckleberry Finn.
This ought to see us through.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad at all.
Yay.
Hey!
Should we make sure it floats?
Rafts always float. It's unfortunate that we don't have a distinguished bottle to christen it with.
Yeah, we could give it a name.
They must have seen us. If we stay here, we'll get killed.
It's starting to get dark. I don't know. Perhaps they didn't see us. But it's too dangerous to wait here until we find out.
But what are we going to do? How are we going to get back?
Hurry up. Let's go.
That plane must have landed down that house we saw before.
What's the difference?
There must be something big going on down there.
Maybe the generals are having a convention tonight.
We didn't see this on the way to the river.
No, we've been running in a new direction.
Whatever junk they're eating sure smells good.
Like Mother's own. Those guns look even more tempting than the food does. I've got an idea. Look, no matter what we do from here on, we're much better off with some guns. We better hurry. There may be others around.
I'm going to get some of that stew first.
Sidney, better grab something to eat. Maybe a long time till our next feast. You better eat something.
How's the stew, Mac?
Kind of cold, but cold stew's all right.
Cold stew on a blazing island. We've just made a perfect definition of war, Mac.
That's ducky.
Of course, a blazing island with a tempest of gunfire around it that fans the blaze. Perhaps if we could... Shh.
Somebody must have heard us.
Grab those guns and let's get going.
Well, why did you have to shoot?
Forget it. Let's move.
We spend our lives running our fingers down the lists and directories, looking for our real names, our permanent addresses. No man is an island. Perhaps that was true a long time ago, before the Ice Age. The glaciers have melted away, and now we're all islands. Parts of a world made of islands only.
Hey, how long are you going to hang around here?
We're in a fine mess now.
I'd give anything to trade places with that dog we chased yesterday. Seems like whenever people get in a hole, they begin to get jealous of dogs.
I admit that our prospects aren't very cheerful. But how about going back to see if our raft is still there?
Look, if we were spotted, they'll have a trap waiting for us when we show up.
Well, it's a chance. But trying to walk out is as risky today as it was yesterday. We'll scout around the river and make certain.
Then what? Even if we find the raft there, even if none of them are laying for us, then what?
Then we'll have to sit tight until it gets dark and hope that we don't have a full moon. We can sing old songs if we get restless waiting.
What's the matter? What's the matter, Snookums? I heard that they're cannibals. So even if we get caught, you're pretty safe.
Leave me alone.
We may be in the woods, McClellan, but let's try to remain civilized.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, Lieutenant. Anyway, there won't be many days left to be civilized in. If we stick around these woods much longer.
She'll see us. Shut up.
Don't be afraid. We're not going to hurt you. She's quite nice. Don't you think so, boys?
Well, what are we supposed to do with her now? I've got a wife at home.
I'm afraid she's become our uninvited guest. I must say I've had worse guests at better parties.
All right, Carvey. All right. Let's not forget where we are. Even though we're lost in the woods, let's try to remain civilized.
Well, we can't stay here.
Should we leave her fish here?
Don't be funny.
Look at the two of you over there, just being all buddy-buddy and about to talk about Stanley Kubrick.
Why, yes, we are.
Aw, how sweet. You two look cute over there being so friendly.
Let's not get too carried away there, nurse.
There's no time like the present to begin this discussion.
No, I suppose there isn't.
After you, Jeffrey.
Very well then. Stanley Kubrick was born in July of 1928. His father was of Romanian, Polish, Jewish descent, and his mother was the daughter of Austrian Jewish immigrants. Now, interestingly, his great-grandfather, Hersch Kubrick, came to the United States in his late 40s, but not with the rest of his family. No, he went to America to pursue a new life with a younger woman, leaving his wife and Stanley's grandfather, Elias, behind in Europe. Later, Elias came to America and would raise a family here that included Stanley's father, Jacob. Now, young Stanley led a somewhat unspectacular life as a child. He attended public school, but despite being discovered to have a much higher than average IQ, he had very poor attendance and only managed a D+ average. He was interested in photography and served as the school newspaper's photographer. More on that in just a moment.
While Stanley Kubrick's parents were married in a traditional Jewish ceremony, young Master Stanley was raised in a fairly non-religious upbringing. This would ultimately serve to give him an atheistic view of the greater world and universe around him.
Yeah, and I might even go so far as to say those atheistic or agnostic views he had in his life certainly carried over to his films and perhaps his whole philosophy. He liked the idea that a movie could subconsciously give the viewer its meaning and emotional impact. Kubrick wasn't interested in giving a sermon to have the audience follow. He'll present the facts of the story, and you are there to judge for yourself what you think those facts presented to you are.
Of course, there are also the usual introspection that characters would have, and that would also reveal the duality that resides in each character, as well as each one of us.
Yeah, I mentioned his stint as a school paper photographer. I should also mention that Kubrick graduated from high school at the age of 16, and I also mentioned that he had poor attendance. Now, he would skip school and go see double feature matinees at the local theater. It's like Kubrick and I were the same person, as I also skipped classes often to go see a movie instead.
Oh yes, you certainly did, Jeffrey.
But I never did miss film class.
You certainly did not. Stanley Kubrick would not attend college. His poor grades and the sudden influx of college registrations and attendance from those who would return from World War II made higher education an impossibility. Instead, he took an internship at Look magazine.
Yeah, and it didn't take long before his natural ability to tell a story through his photographs got noticed. Now still, people who would know him, or at least knew him at the time, felt that he lacked almost any personality to be a successful film director. He lacked confidence and was incredibly introverted.
But his work for Look did send him more or less around the world. He went to Portugal and did a photo shoot for a travel story for the magazine. He was sent to Florida to cover the Bonham and Bailey's circus, but he took great love in photographing boxing matches.
Yeah, you got that right. His first match that he shot was called Prize Fighter. That was published in 1949 and followed not just the match itself, but the before and after of the match. One of the combatants is someone we might actually know, Walter Cartier.
Ah yes, the young fellow in the first short film we saw, Day of the Fight. A couple of years later, Kubrick would begin making short films like Day of the Fight and Flying Padre. This allowed him to raise the funds to make his first feature, the one we are currently watching, Fear and Desire.
Yeah, unfortunately this movie wouldn't really go over all that well. As mentioned previously, the distributor died and Kubrick desperately wanted to destroy the remaining prints of the movie.
Without a hit to really show off his talents and ability, he could not make his next movie, Killer's Kiss, without taking some for-hire work. He was hired to the Seafarers International Union to make his first color film, The Seafarers. The Seafarers would start a tradition in Kubrick films, the use of a dolly track to run the camera along.
With The Seafarers, Kubrick had the money and ability to make his next feature film, Killer's Kiss. While that was not much longer than this film's scant 60-minute runtime, it did return to Kubrick's love of boxing.
But even then, Killer's Kiss was not exceptionally well received. It did not gross much more than its $75,000 budget. While praised for Kubrick's direction and camera work, many felt the acting was subpar.
But that said, Martin Scorsese did mention Killer's Kiss as an inspiration for some of the techniques used in Raging Bull.
Another not-so-great box office performance followed Kubrick's next film, The Killing, about a robbery of a racetrack gone wrong. In fact, this was a reportedly massive box office failure for the time. It is said the film lost $130,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's necessarily the fault of the movie. The Killing did get good reviews, but it had not so great distribution.
The next film, Paths of Glory, would become a marginal success.
Yeah, and what's more, it made Kubrick a little more of a controversial person. In Europe, the anti-war sentiment of the film would raise ire, but that mostly went over much more positively here in the States. Some governments even banned the film in Europe. Now, you'd think that after 2 devastating wars in the 40 previous years, people in Europe would agree that war is bad, but what do I know?
It also gave Kubrick access to Kirk Douglas.
Boy, howdy it did. Paths of Glory proved that Kubrick was a director of ideas and ability. He did attempt some other work during this time, but ultimately nothing with his name on it would be seen until he got a phone call from Douglas asking him to direct Spartacus.
While Spartacus was a major success and made Kubrick a major director, not all was perfect behind the scenes. Douglas and Kubrick clashed over the script. The production was troubled in another way as Kubrick found himself lacking the creative control he desired. However, the success of the film, bringing in nearly $150 million and becoming an awards darling, proved to Kubrick one thing.
Yeah, if a movie could be that troubled in production and still extremely successful, there was nothing that would stop him.
Yes, the success of Spartacus opened up the 60s for Kubrick, now an accomplished and sought-after director. He would score massive hits one after another. Lolita, Dr. Strangelove, and 2001: A Space Odyssey would all be extremely well received.
Yeah, yet Dr. Strangelove was often derided by those who felt the satire about the defense apparatus employed by the United States was just a sick, juvenile joke.
There is no mistaking, though, the power of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh my yes, considered to be the greatest science fiction film ever made, 2001 would challenge viewers and not simply spoon-feed the audience a specific theme or concept.
This goes back to that concept that Kubrick would rather let his films permeate through the viewer's subconscious so they can draw their own conclusions and themes.
After 2001, Kubrick would only make 5 more films in his life. These films would all explore different types of genres and concepts, ranging from the nihilistic science fiction behind A Clockwork Orange, to the period drama of Barry Lyndon, to the supernatural horror of The Shining, to the Vietnam War depicted in Full Metal Jacket, to the eerie underbelly of desire and potential unfaithfulness in Eyes Wide Shut. A Clockwork Orange is my personal favorite film in Kubrick's filmography. The incredible use of the dichotomy of a future that is lush and vibrant while still seeing others live in very dirty and poorly cared for buildings and parts of town. The use of violence isn't just exploitation. It makes the point about the Malcolm McDowell character being both a victimizer and victim. Barry Lyndon's film is about as gorgeous of a movie you'll ever see. The art direction by Ken Adam and Roy Walker is stunning. The cinematography of John Alcott is breathtaking. The movie, despite being sort of known for its slowness, is an exhilarating sight for the eyes. Now, I'm not sure what more there is to say about The Shining that hasn't already been said, but it's the Kubrick movie that I watch the most due to just how great the movie is, plus the phenomenal performances of my favorite actor, Jack Nicholson, as well as Shelley Duvall. Now, many would consider Full Metal Jacket as the greatest, as one of the greatest, at least, Vietnam War movies ever made. It's one that I have watched probably the least because I don't really like watching war movies too often. But I remember how excited I was to go see Eyes Wide Shut and how totally engrossed I was on this bizarre odyssey of sorts the Tom Cruise character went through on his way to a secret sex society that gets downright scary for him. I personally love every single one of Kubrick's movies.
Stanley Kubrick died just 6 days after screening the final cut of Eyes Wide Shut to friends and members of the production crew. The film would be released 3 months later. It is without a doubt that Stanley Kubrick's influence has been felt on film ever since. He is routinely mentioned as one of the greatest film directors in the history of film.
He'd also be considered one of the biggest influences of modern-day directors. It almost seems like everyone lists Kubrick as an inspiration. I'm not kidding. They're the ones you'd expect, like Quentin Tarantino, David Lynch, Brian De Palma, Michael Mann, and the Coen brothers. But then there are those that you would be surprised to hear listed, like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Roland Emmerich, Kevin Smith, and Seth MacFarlane. While some of those names might make you snicker a bit, it's very difficult to say that Kubrick particularly Kubrick in the age of films in color, didn't advance the medium to the point that almost everyone would like to film that perfect shot loaded with color and spectacle. Alright, whew, that was a lot.
Yes.
I think we should get back to the movie. Nurse, what do you think? Will that poor peasant girl be able to get back to her village unharmed?
I sure hope so.
Well, I think we're going to find out very soon. So let's get into the rest of Fear and Desire, and we will bring this season in for a landing.
What are you going to do with her, Lieutenant?
Give me your belt. You too, Fletcher.
Please don't beat her. She's just scared like we are. She doesn't even talk.
Oh, get a grip on yourself. No one's going to punish her. I simply want to tie her up. Now, give me your belt.
Let's hurry it up. My arm's getting tired.
Be careful not to hurt her.
I hope she doesn't start screaming.
She's a pretty little thing.
Why don't we just leave her here and get going?
Don't rush me. If we can make her understand this, perhaps she can tell us whether they found the raft.
Habla Espanol?
I'll handle it, Sidney. I'm quite sure she wasn't educated abroad. Now, let's see. You see boat, our boat.
Oh?
Yes, that's it. Boat. You see boat.
Don't tell me she doesn't even understand you.
If she can't tell us anything, let's let her go.
Sure, so she can run downstream to that command post and tip our hand. You kids and your ideas. Maybe she was going there in the first place.
With the fish, you mean?
Sure. A general gets what he wants for dinner, no matter what. If it's fish caught or fresh strawberries or gold plates.
This is
or
hardly the time to become a revolutionary. We ought to continue to see about the raft. But we can't let her go yet.
Why? What'd she do to us? If she can understand, she would have told you.
Mac already told you why. Sidney, you'll stay here with the young lady until we come back. Here, take this.
You're going to leave me here?
Yes. I told you to watch the girl.
You're going to make me stay and then not come back. I know because of yesterday.
Keep calm, kid. If we're not back by night, just get in touch with our old man about our wedding. Maybe you can settle down in a treehouse and raise some monkeys.
Leave him alone, Mac.
Don't listen to him. Remember, you promised to come back, Fletcher.
I want you to stay here and keep an eye on her because she may prove very useful if the raft has been discovered. We ought to be back in a couple of hours. Now, just relax. Don't get panicky.
See you later, Sidney.
Glad they let me stay. I'm not fooling. Please don't be afraid to like me. Please. That's why they let me stay. They thought you would like me.
They gave me a gun and I can't go home.
Don't do that. Don't move away. It's not my fault. I stopped them from beating you. Don't scowl. Watch. I'll make you laugh. Look, I'm the general. Hey, watch me. Attention. The general is here. Attention. Glad to have you with us, sir. Quite frankly, the situation is desperate. I don't think I can cope with it alone. Isn't funny? Isn't it? Orderly. More fat fish that the girl caught for me. The general. I am the general. You don't even smile. You don't. Listen. I'm lost. Lost on this terrible island. If you have to hate me, please try to like me also.
They must have been reading a magazine in that plane.
I wouldn't have believed it.
Mac, better take a look around the river bend. Careful. We'll get to work camouflaging the raft. I'm a little worried about Sidney back there with the girl. I don't like the way he's been acting.
You're not going soft-headed and thinking about taking her along with us tonight.
You're beginning to sound like Sidney. No. She could bring 3 friends, perhaps. But as it is, she'll remain locked in the forest like we were.
That must be the one that almost nailed us. There he is again. It's him. A cocky little king. And me holding binoculars like a lady watching an opera. Binoculars. Soon he'll go into his palace with all his iron lapdogs. If only this was a rifle sight. Then I could make the red eye between his ears. Then he'd see McClellan.
Girls always love stories. But it's so hard to finish and wait for words. You want to hear more? Do you? Huh? All right. Then the spirit in the magician's power goes back to the island and tells Miranda that her father's dead. The spirit sings how he's dead at the bottom of the ocean. His bones are coral, his eyes are pearls, and Miranda, her father's dead. Dead? Can't you understand anything? Dead. 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 Now do you understand?
All clear?
Everything's all right. I'd like to talk to you about that house.
What house?
That house down there. The one where we saw that general yesterday.
Later on, Mac. Right now, I'd like you to go back to Sydney. I didn't like the way he was acting when we left. I'm a little concerned.
But don't you think that
Do as I say, will you? As soon as we're through here, we'll join you. I don't want anything to go wrong back there.
Yeah. Brought you some water. Now you like me, don't you? I'll get you loose. Just a minute. You'll put your arms around me. I know. Wait. I knew you'd like me. Just a minute. Don't run away. Don't make me stay. You're going to tell the general. You're going to tell him I'm in front of him. Come back. Don't tell the general. I wouldn't let you.
The woods is smoking with blood.
What's the matter? Where's the girl? Answer me. What have you done? Tell me, I'll pound you to a jelly.
She was tired. She went to lie down. Over there. Don't annoy her, Mac. Come here. It wasn't my fault. The magician did it. Honest. Prospero the magician. First we're a bird, and then we're an island. Before I was a general. And now I'm a fish. Hurrah for the magicians! The river. It's blood, Mac. Cold. Cold. I'm going for a swim. Come on in, Mac. Listen to them. It's blood.
What happened? Where's Sidney and the girl?
Kid must have gone out of his head. When I got back, he was just laying there. The girl's dead. Over there. He shot her.
Where is he?
He's gone. He yelled something about how the magician does it. How before he was something, and now he's a fish. Before I could stop him, he ran away towards the river. He kept laughing and screaming.
We can't do anything about it now. We'll have to move again. A nice spot near the raft would be the best place to wait till night. I guess there's going to be more elbow room than I thought.
Yeah. And I want to talk to you about that house down the river. And the general.
Kill him.
Yeah.
No, I won't hear any more about it. I don't know what's gotten into you, Mac. So you saw General. So what? The raft is all set, and in a couple of hours we'll be on it.
Raft. Raft. Can't you see any further? The general, why he...
How many times do we have to go over this? Must I tell you again? It's one of their generals to me. He's cheap at my rate of exchange, but our lives aren't.
Your rate of exchange. You make me laugh. If you had any guts, you...
Look, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Forget about the general for a minute. What about the plane you saw?
That's right. What about that plane?
We've already been over this. It looks like a two-seater, and with that small field for me to clear.
Look, one of us can take that raft downstream to the field when it gets dark and start shooting to draw the sentries from the house. And the other two can plug that guy and get away in a plane while I keep him busy from the raft.
You?
Sure, me.
They'd get you. You'd never make it back alive.
Who else could do it the way I could? You couldn't. You'd be right at home, sitting down nice and comfortable in a cockpit, looking down on what's going on. Sure. You recite a few sayings you've picked up, and everything will be all right. I'd just as soon make the trip back myself. On a raft.
Do you think you'd have any chance at all to get away with it alive?
I don't know. Here I am. I'm 34 years old. I've never done anything important. Nothing. When this is over, I'll fix radios and washing machines, and they'll say, "Good boy, Mac." That's all. I don't care if they got 1,000,000 generals. There's one 2 miles from here. If his hide's gonna keep me from going nuts, like Sidney, only in a different way, I'm gonna put up my own hide.
But why should we? The raft's still there. As soon as it gets dark, it can take us all back tonight.
Look, if I draw him down to the river, you and Fletcher can do the job and get away in a plane. What do you say, Fletch?
Well, it's not that I want to seem important. Half the trouble in the world happens because some people do. But I think half the good things happen that way, too. If we could get away with it, it would sure be better.
I don't know the words to say what I mean, but this is something for me. Something... Sure, I guess we can all probably make it back on that thing, but when you walk and walk through the woods and then suddenly they dangle a general in front of you like magic, and you know it's only for this once, you can't turn your back on him.
None of us asked to be here, but we all have to gamble. It's not as if we could refuse. We had to gamble once we crashed. That general raised the stakes, and we've been so lucky. Why shouldn't we put up a little more than we have to?
What are you living for anyway? To make talk? Why? Why is your life so precious? Why? Can you tell me why?
Why? They always corner me with that why. If I knew a decent answer to it, I'd shout it, publish it, write it on walls with chalk.
Do it for me.
Well, we have nothing to lose but our futures. Okay. I guess we'll leave you now. Remember, don't start for a half an hour. If the plane isn't still there, we'll have time to get back to you.
Don't worry. It'll be there.
Good luck, Mac. See you soon. Try not to get your feet wet.
Yeah. You look out for your head.
Okay, fella.
So long.
Mac, I hope that
You
sometime...
talk too much. I guess we both do a little.
Sometimes talk is an indispensable medicine.
Yeah, but you get sicker later. Good luck, Lieutenant. I didn't really mean what I said before about guts.
Yes, you did. But don't let it bother you.
Take it easy, fella.
The plane's still there, so I guess there's no really good excuse to go back.
I guess not. Can you see?
Hold it. Hold it. Yes, there he is.
What time is it?
We have about 10 minutes before Mac begins. Let's hurry.
It's better. It's better to roll up your life into one night and one man and one gun. It hurts too much to keep hurting everyone else in every direction. And to be hurt with all the separate hates exploding day after day. You can't help it. A curse buzzes out of your mouth with every word you say. And nobody alive can tell which is which or what you mean. Yeah. You try door after door when you hear voices you like behind them. But the knobs come off in your hand.
Wait. Where did you find him?
One of the men did down by the river. He was very busy baying at the moon.
There, Proteus. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Staying away without leave for 2 whole days. An officer should know how to control himself better. Have a drink, Captain.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You must never, never do that again, Proteus. Don't you know that there are evil spirits without bodies who roam the forests looking for unsuspecting dogs like you? And that when you open your jaws to disturb the moon, why, they leap into your mouth and possess you. Then you could become a spy, a murderer, or even a traitor.
Not to your dog, sir. He knows his allegiance.
Have you been alert, Proteus? Have you detected all the distant marchings? Has your wet nose become aware of all the blood on the grass? What else can you tell us besides your puppy dog sadness?
I wish you could tell us where those enemy soldiers from that wrecked plane are. They've been bothersome for the last 2 days.
They'll soon grow tired of starving and being hunted. Even Proteus grows tired of it after 2 days. See that Lieutenant Proteus gets something to eat.
Yes, sir.
Nobody's gonna cry for me later or cheer for me now. Nobody else is me. I know that. Who else but me is buried under the chain of everything I ever did? I didn't mean any of it. It was all wrong. Yeah, good riddance. Oh, what a trade. Him for me. What a thing to come to at the end. Like building a bridge. Or stealing the crown jewels. Thanks, General. Thanks. I'll take the tombstone if it's really mine.
Waiting. Waiting to kill. Waiting to heal. Waiting to die. I waited in the north for 4 divisions. One by one, the men turned black as we waited for the last snowflake to dissolve. Across the valley, our enemies blew on their cold hands until no more breath came. Then they were dead, and they knew it. We were so well prepared for death that the armistice was a mutual disappointment.
Now he's in his counting house, figuring up the corpses on his maps, full of his supper. Oh, they'll get him soon. A duck in a shooting gallery. And I'll be the wheel under all the ducks and all the bull's eyes. I should talk. The clay pigeon on a slow raft.
Frankly, I still become uneasy when I find myself trapped, directing the courses of frightened men. I cannot quite admit that it is I who am creating slaughter in this abyss. So that I left the road, so that I ordered this or that. I'm trapped. What is a prison for me? I make a grave for others.
To your health, sir.
river is helping me out of my life.
Sometimes these maps. Sometimes as I look at these maps, I wonder if my own grave isn't being planned. Here. Or here. Or here.
No more Sundays. No more 1,000 things. I'm a little scared, though. Just a little. Like kissing my great-grandmother when she was dying.
I missed him. I think he's only wounded.
Come on. We have to finish him off.
But they stopped shooting at the river. They'll be here any minute.
I surrender.
Come on, let's go. Please. Please, we don't have any time. back? Can I come?
Huh?
I won't be any bother.
Sure, kid.
Oh.
Hop on.
Oh.
There's plenty of room.
You tired?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for stopping. There was so much noise in there. All right, Mac. You rest. I'll be quiet. You know, I lost my watch. Mac, look, don't close your eyes. The trees. They're naked. They're naked, Mac. Wow.
And what happened to the sergeant?
I don't know, sir. He might make it.
Sir, with your permission, I'd like to go down to the river and watch for him for a while.
Yes, sir. The same goes for me.
You most certainly have the right to it if you wish.
Do you think he'll come back?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet whether even we've come back. I think we've all traveled too far from our own private boundaries to be certain about these other things anymore. We'll come back to ourselves.
Part of me's glad, but
Yeah. I'm glad in a way, too. And I feel free all of a sudden. But somehow I don't want what I wanted before. I know it's good. There's nothing else I can want. I'm all mixed up. I wish I could want what I wanted before.
does your head bother you?
No, it's something else. It's... What's that? I guess I'm not built for this.
Nobody ever was. It's all a trick we perform when we'd rather not die immediately. Come on.
Well, that didn't take long for Sydney to go completely nuts while watching the girl, huh?
Nope. Well, Dick, I will say that it was very nice of you to bring Fear and Desire. That was quite a pleasure.
Well, it was indeed my pleasure. Jeffrey C., I believe you still have the makings to be an excellent highbrow film critic.
Nah, I don't see it like that.
No?
No.
Well, never deny what you truly are. Jeffrey, I can see you are leading accredited classes on film analysis at an institute of higher education semester after semester.
Yeah, well, you see, I kind of like what I do here. Besides, I don't need to be telling nobody about, what to think about a movie or an actor or a technique. And besides, I don't really think that you taught me anything that I didn't already know about me or movies or anything.
Didn't I?
That son of a bitch just disappeared, didn't he?
He did. He really did.
Huh, okay, well, that was weird. Okay, so, let's talk a little bit more about Fear and Desire before we close everything out here. The first thing that I like is that it's clear that this movie is having a war that at least looks like World War II. However, it is not. There is no distinction that states who these people are, what countries they are from, and who they're fighting. That said, you do have guys named Mac and Sydney and Fletcher, and the other guys are blonde and have uniforms that look a little German, at least if you ask me. The girl is also very clearly a European-style villager. She's dressed almost like a peasant from some nebulous time in the past that would almost seem to be much earlier than World War II. It's also kind of implied that the opposite army guys, as well as the girl being blonde-haired and blue-eyed and so forth. So my point is that the illusion is there that this is World War II, but no specific reference is made. That also means that this is not about a specific war or a particular battle. Instead, it's about the people who fight war and what they go through.
Like I said, Sydney's behavior with the girl started kind of innocently and then gradually got crazier and creepier as he kept talking to her.
Oh, that was an amazing series of scenes. I want to talk about those two actors in particular because one is not, I wouldn't say he's really best known as an actor, and the other one is one of the most recognizable and often inspires parodies and Halloween costumes when it comes to early 60s era monsters in movies. So let's start with Private Sydney. He's played by Paul Mazursky. Now Mazursky was 4 times as many credits for acting than he does what I think he's probably much more well thought of, and that's as a writer and director. Mazursky came into his own as a director with 1969's Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. From there, he soon would garner multiple Academy Award nominations for writing that film, as well as Harry and Tano, An Unmarried Woman, and Enemies, a Love Story. A 5th nomination came for producing the Best Picture nominee, An Unmarried Woman. Mazursky only sets his films in either New York City or Los Angeles. It's said that his fascination and infatuation with LA was quite sincere. He never came off as being hip to the LA scene, as the Los Angeles Times once put it, but that he really, truly loved the perceived insanity of that city. He's not just a fan of the city, but he's a fanatic. We also have Virginia Leith.
She looks familiar, especially from the neck up.
As she should. Virginia Leith was not a huge star, but she did have some decent credits in the 50s as a contracted player at 20th Century Fox. She starred opposite Robert Wagner and Joanne Woodward in the 1956 film A Kiss Before Dying. That same year, Leith dated Marlon Brando, and the year before she was involved with Jeffrey Hunter, the actor who played Captain Pike in the original Star Trek pilot episode The Cage. Now, she did some TV shows like One Step Beyond, Beretta, Starsky and Hutch, and Barnaby Jones, but her final credited feature film performance was as Jan Compton, or Jan in the Pan, in the 1962 classic The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
That's why I recognized her.
Indeed, this is one of the more recognizable B-movie monster flicks of the early 60s. It was featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000 as the very first movie that new host Mike Nelson would watch with the bots. It's a movie that I've seriously considered putting onto this show. Note to self, put that movie on this show. But it's had a recent satirical remake that I'd positively love to see. It's had a model kit of it. It's inspired Halloween costumes for chicks who are super cool and dig the classics. She's B-movie monster famous is what I'm getting at.
I wonder if I will ever be B-movie monster famous.
I mean, you're not a monster.
Are you sure about that? Yeah. Think about that for a little bit.
Okie dokie. Care to give your final thoughts and rating for Stanley Kubrick's Fear and Desire?
Sure thing. I like what's going on in this movie. It's got a lot of pretty good things to showcase. It's efficient with mostly everything being kept to this small patch of lightly forested area. It's only got a few people in it, with a couple even having multiple speaking parts. I just wish it was a little bit longer. Again, I like the actors in the movie. These young actors are all playing mature parts and pulling it off pretty well despite only being in their 20s. The scene with Sidney trying to entertain and woo the girl while she was tied to a tree was really intense and both kind of funny and really sad. It's pretty clear that Private Sidney lost his marbles having to kill that guy inside the little cabin where they got some extra guns and stuff. It just goes by so fast. If it was a little bit longer, I could see this rise up the poop chart even higher, but for what it is, I give Fear and Desire a score of 3 poops out of 5.
Now, I really do see a lot of what you'll eventually recognize in other Kubrick films. These guys struggle with the war itself. Some characters waver between being level-headed or calm to being something that we might need to fear or keep an eye on because they may just end up committing war crimes. It's a movie that lets us decide if these guys are good or if they are tainted by the war that they're fighting. These guys, who we're also supposed to think are the Germans and therefore maybe the bad guys, are themselves weary of war. The protagonists are kind of bloodthirsty, if I'm being honest. It's a neat little look inside how war can indeed change people and make them question their own morals or their patriotism. This is a pretty decent movie, but alas.
Things have to come to an end, huh?
Yes, indeed. Season 3 comes to a close. But hey, guess what, nurse?
What?
We're not going to be gone for too long.
Yay!
Join us in just about 3 or 4 weeks for our Halloween episode.
What kinds of ghosts or goblins or ghouls do we have in store for that?
Oh, I think we'll have trick or treats in store for everyone.
Ooh, spooky.
Now, that Halloween episode will kick off an abbreviated 6-episode season 4, where 3 episodes for October, November, and December will be followed by 3 more episodes in February, which is also going to be our 50th episode, then again in March and April. After that, we'll be taking a year hiatus and we'll return with big plans for 2024.
I'm looking forward to both what we will be showing over the next 6 months and our vacation.
Me too, but you know what?
What's that?
Considering that you can still read articles every Friday morning at bmovieenema.com and you can check out past episodes on YouTube, Vimeo, and the website itself, you can still get all sorts of B-Movie Enema goodness.
So it's not like they'll really miss too much then, huh?
That's exactly right. So as we finish this 3rd season and get ready for that Halloween episode, I just want to thank everyone for watching these past 17 episodes, and we'll see each other very, very soon. So on behalf of Nurse Disembody, the great B-Movie Poop Shoot, and myself, I wish you all a good night.